rationally, the response should be, oh yeah, we're getting married. What? Are you kidding me? Why are you doing that? It's like someone saying, I'm going to go skydiving. It's like, wait, are you crazy? That's a dangerous thing to do, and it's not
And the thing is, this skydiving has a higher survival rate than marriages. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, wherever you are. Welcome back to the channel. The epidemic of failing marriages continues. And on this particular video from a diary of a CEO, I think we've reacted to a video from here before. He was talking to a divorce lawyer, a seasoned divorce lawyer, and they're basically discussing the real reason men don't want to marry anymore. I think we know, and I've discussed some of this before, but it's always good to get the point of view of the people in the front line who get to experience all these breakups and destruction firsthand. So subscribe to the channel and let's get down to it.
What is the probability that someday I do meet somebody like you and not in this context?
Well, if you marry, there's about a 56% chance that your marriage will end in divorce. Now, that doesn't take into consideration how many people may consult with a divorce lawyer because they're having difficulty in their marriage, but they choose subsequent to meeting me not to divorce for some particular reason, whether that's they don't want to part with half of their funds, or they've just decided it's easier to stay miserable and with a person, or they're staying together for the kids, but they want to know what their rights were. So if you marry, the chances of meeting someone like me are more likely than not, if we look at it that way, because it's.
Now, the thing is, for both men and women, when you've lived in a certain situation for a very long time, you kind of get used to it and then you kind of accept it. And this goes for so many situations, not just marriage. And often, when you find yourself in a rut, you've plateaued, you don't have any motivation and all those things, and you've kind of got comfortable and you get a bit afraid of breaking the mold because you might have to start again or something like that. So you'd find that a lot of people stay in these broken relationships, even in business. You keep dealing with some conman of a partner or a horrible employee, because there's that element of comfort that stops you from making decisive decisions.
More than 50%. So it's a high number,
But if we define failure as all of the other things you've described there, where we kind of stay together but we're miserable, or we stay together for some other reason, what percentage of marriages on that basis do you think actually fail?
I mean, if we consider failure staying together miserable for the children or staying together for financial, economic reasons, and then we add that to the 56% that end in divorce, then, I mean, it would be very hard to track that, but I think it's generous to think it's another 20% probably. But I mean, think about what that adds up to. That means that you've got something that fails 70, 75% of the time. That's a negligent activity. That is more likely than not to cause significant harm in your life. So I don't say that to sound like the Grim Reaper when it comes to marriage. I actually really think marriage is a lovely thing, and I get misty-eyed at weddings like anybody, and not just for future business purposes. I think the statistic that's even more interesting to me than how many marriages end in divorce or how many people stay together miserable is that 86% of people who divorce remarry within 5 years.
And this is the thing. I've always had this notion, or at least it's my belief, that the conditions that are necessary to have such relationships work long-term just don't exist anymore. People have way more options. There's a lot of breakdown of the family, even extended family, which helped kind of sieve through the degenerates that are coming through your doors to see who actually fits to join your family. And that's what marriages generally were. So they were a community-wide thing, community cohesion, utility. But it's no longer that. It is about often just financials for the woman, often, and kids for the man, and maybe some regular punani here every now and then. But as we see, that is not what people are getting, but people keep doing it because these failure rates are actually disturbing. There's very few things you would do in this life which have this high a failure rate. It's absolutely ridiculous that people actually go back and marry again. And I think it's that getting used to a situation, you're afraid, and maybe that's where you operate optimally because maybe you divorced when you're too old, and all those things come to play. But in my opinion, that's why makes even less sense to get to marry at this point in time. It makes absolutely no sense because it puts you in a position where by the time you realize it's all gone to the dogs, you've invested too much.
So think about that. Now you've done this thing, it's failed. You've gone through this difficult process of having to undo it. And now within 5 years, 86% of people remarry. I mean, so that tells you how important this is to us as humans.
It is important because of the family, the children, the passing on of the genes. It's a very strong biological pull. That is not something that we don't know. But the thing is that there are a lot of biological pulls we have that are detrimental to us. That mean that we all have to succumb to them.
How drawn to this idea, this technology of marriage we are. And that to me is fascinating because I've often said, like, I'm not sure what marriage was designed, what problem is marriage designed to solve?
Children, the rearing of children and passing on the genes. That is really creating the most conducive environment to be able to rear those children, the next phase of our genes. It's really, when you break it down to the bare essentials, that's what really it is. So everything we are doing is in service of that.
See, the fact that it takes this long to think. If I said to you, what purpose does this technology, this mug, what does it serve? Well, that's easy, right? It's hard to drink out of your hands, and someone would have to keep coming up and pouring things in our hands. Okay, well, that's pretty straightforward. What problem does this solve? Well, that's easy, right? We want to get, the ring stains around. We get yelled at by our significant other for not using a coaster. So these are easy things. But marriage, something so ubiquitous that it's assumed. If you're dating someone for a few years and you say, guess what? We're getting married. Everyone goes, of course, phenomenal, congratulations, that's great, of course you're gonna do that. You make an honest woman of her, of course. Whereas if you say, we've been together for 3-4 years, we decided we're not gonna get married, people go, oof, what's wrong with this guy? He's got intimacy issues, he's not getting married. What's the problem that you don't wanna get married? Whereas
the thing is, it is a self-enforcing social standard, and that's what happens really in general. And it's a good and bad thing, but that's how things work. Basically, when a society decided this is how they do things, they create taboos and laws against it, or for it to push it forward or against it. So what happens is that the society will be on your back because they're looking at their own demise. That's what really underpins all this, that if people don't get married or they don't get into stable relationship to raise more stable kids or kids that will actually be useful to society, then that's all really the panic that there is, the invisible hand behind the scenes. But most of us don't want to think about it because our judgment is being clouded by our feelings and with the romance and all the adrenaline and dopamine hits from all the good feelings we are supposed to get so that we can have sex and have kids. You know what I'm saying?
Rationally, the response should be, oh yeah, we're getting married. What? Are you kidding me? Why are you doing that? It's like someone saying, I'm going to go skydiving. It's like, wait, are you crazy? That's a dangerous thing to do. And it's not even...
And the thing is, this skydiving has a higher survival rate than marriages.
I mean, listen, skydiving, it's not like 75%, 76% of people die who are skydiving. So the truth is, like, it makes very little sense to me that marriage is assumed to be a thing you will do when, in fact, we as a species are so unbelievably bad at it.
That sort of 86% that then get remarried after divorce, are they then Have they learned from their mistakes? Are they better
This
at
time
marriage?
it's different. This time it's different. It's
Yeah, I am the special one, especially when you meet the woman who's been with a lot of people. When a lot of men try to convince themselves, especially when they find that woman extremely attractive, that, oh, I am different. She is going to treat me differently. We all know where that ends up.
This time, I'm really in love. That other time when I thought I was in love, that wasn't it. This time, it's different. It really, it's a blind spot, you know. And again, where does it come from? You'd have to ask people smarter than me. You know, it could be neuroscience. It could be the realm of a real deep social psychology. It could just be a cognitive bias. I have no idea. It could be a delusion brought on by inadequate lighting.
The thing is, actually, this information has been studied for a very long time. It's basically a biological reaction that, you know, that really controls how we behave and how we react to things. And this is meant to maximize the possibility of us bringing up healthy, functional offspring, children. It is, I think I might find some videos or some resources and pin them down in the comment so that you guys can look through it, so that it makes sense. Because a lot of the times people behave when you're overwhelmed with emotion, make a lot of stupid decisions later. That's why they say things like, how was it love? I mean, fine, but you're still meeting the grants of your decisions, isn't it? You're still meeting with the fallout from all your highs of being emotional and responding without a lot of logical processes. You know, this is what men must do the older they get, because you're allowed that when you're young, because you really don't have any experience and you haven't been trained and all these things. But the older you grow, you really shouldn't be able to make these blunders, to be honest with you, because we don't want to engage on that level because it's uncomfortable. Although it is advantageous to us, it's extremely uncomfortable, and people don't want to have that feeling. That's the feeling you're looking for, the high.
You know, but whatever it is, we go, oh yeah, but this one's different. This one, I did a prenup last week for a guy who went through one of the ugliest divorces I've ever seen, and that's not hyperbole. Like, I've been doing this for 25 years, just to say. So for me to say the ugliest divorce I've ever seen that's amazing. That's a really big deal. That's like a Michelin chef saying this was the best meal I've ever had. So this guy had a horrific divorce that lasted 4 or 5 years. He's remarrying a woman 30 years younger than him, who he met 4 months ago. And
now those are these buffoons, you see, these mega simps we have around. They can't do without the women like that. Although the thing is, you don't have to invest that much. You can have what you want with very little investment. I mean, these old simps actually are the worst, because anyway, to be honest with you, a lot of them have accrued so much money that they're willing to lose it for that feeling. So, but see, at the same time, when younger men look at that and they think, well, if this old man is going all out like that, it must be something. Well,
I said to him, as artfully and tactfully as I could, you know, you've only known this person for a short time, and, you know, have you thought about maybe just, you know, being a little cautious in terms of, you've seen how difficult a divorce can be. You know, do you think maybe it might be? He goes, oh no, I've never felt anything like this. I've never been this in love. I've never been so connected with someone. We just get each other. And, you know, it would be very indelicate and rude for me to say, like, snap out of it, man. You got to get your, like, really, you know, bring your logical brain to this equation. Do not bring the part of you that's just filled with romance and has Christmas in your eyes. Like, really, you got to look at this honestly.
And you see, the worst thing about this is that even for women, men and women, when they are infatuated to a certain level, you cannot talk sense to them. I have personal experience with close friends who literally marry streetwalkers and start families with them. And it's so disturbing, because every time you're trying to talk to them, in fact, the first time they meet them, these people were actually in a position where you are purchasing her services, but they keep them. And you wonder, what is wrong with us? But I stopped really arguing with biological impulses so much as to try and just give direction a bit on how to try and foolproof your way into getting something, a decent relationship. It is a very difficult situation these days, but what can we do? You people are simping out of control, and you do not have the whereabouts about what is going on around you, in as much as you've heard it several times, or you just don't want to hear it, or you don't want to follow it, or you look for all manner of excuses. The thing is, we have to deal with each other as men and women, and the thing is, these relationships are important. They are the most efficient, best way to raise the next generation. We know that. But you have to try and take power back so that you can have the best possible relationships. That this amount of resources, this huge investment you're making, will not just be turned inside out because somebody woke up on the wrong side, or the hormones are acting up, or somebody else reminded you how of this and that. You cannot invest with such a very volatile situation. That's what it really is at the bottom of the line. If you're going to marry, it's an investment in your future, in your offspring's future. And if she decides, her future too. So you must be extra careful, just like in every very important engagement, to do the due diligence, find out maybe the partner in this business that you are getting, in this case the woman, is really good for you, or she going to improve your situation, or she's going to be a monkey on your back. So I don't know. I'm going to leave the rest of the video down below, the link, so that you can watch the rest of the video. I wanted to work to that part because it is kind of a continuous cautionary tales to all these men out here who, for some weird reason, and it's not a weird reason, I understand it, but I'm just saying, man, we need to be a bit more careful. Because things have changed dramatically and you've been lulled to sleep for decades. You need to be up. Anyway, please subscribe to the channel, leave a like on the video, and leave your comment. Tell me what you think about what I've just been commenting on. And until next time, peace.